Black Day at School. Chapter 1. Danger Bell. Justin, Helen, and Adrian remained still in their classroom one Friday morning. The sun was streaming in through the windows, and everyone was looking forward to class. Then, quite out of the blue, a ringing alarm bell echoed along the hallway. The kids jumped up in their seats and looked around at each other, startled. The teacher frowned. "It is the fire alarm," she announced, standing up. "But we're not getting any smoke. Let's just stay calm." The moment the bell continued to ring, the class hurried to the corridor. The hallway lights were on, and then an eerie red light was noticed below the door of the science lab. Justin's heart started pounding. "That light, there is no body in the lab," Helen whispered, pointing towards the closed door. A low rumbling noise was heard inside the building. Mr. Wilson, the science teacher, was nowhere to be seen. The alarm bell was still howling, but beyond the school all was quiet. No fire trucks arrived, and the sky above the school was ordinary. The students trembled with terror. Justin looked around at his classmates. "This is not a drill," he tried to say, struggling to be brave. Adrian crouched down and tried to open the lab door. It was shut. "Nobody will open it. The system will have to be jammed," he explained. The headmaster emerged and made an announcement on the intercom. "Attention all students. This is a grave emergency. Stay out of the corridors and wait for instructions. Do not leave the building." But the intercom went dead. Justin swallowed. "If we don't act, nobody will," he said. Helen and Adrian nodded. The three friends crept along the black corridor, their footsteps echoing on the empty floor. Outside, the alarm bell still rang. Something was gravely amiss. They could sense a shiver traveling down their spines as they neared the science lab, where the bell sounded the most fiercely. Chapter 2. Empty Halls. The corridor was empty but for the ringing bell. Lockers were ajar, and science materials lay scattered over the tables. Justin pulled out his flashlight. The beam danced over spilled liquids and broken glass on the lab floor. Adrian noticed pieces of paper on the ground. "Mr. Wilson was in a hurry, it appears," he remarked. Helen read from a piece of paper with flashlight. "Experiment 49. Danger. Do not touch," in huge, red letters. There was a faint buzzing noise in one of the corners of the room. But when Justin turned the corner, he froze. On the wall in front of him was a great black smear, and on the floor below it was a torn backpack and books that had been flung everywhere. They all gasped and went on. Chapter 3. Chilling Encounter. The cafeteria contained a green emergency light that flashed slowly. Tables had been overturned. Helen found a phone on a table and tried to call 911, but it crackled with static. Suddenly a shadow darted across the doorway. The three friends froze. A figure appeared. It was Mr. Wilson. But he was not quite himself. His white lab coat was torn, and his eyes were wild. "Run," he wheezed. And then he disappeared into the shadows before they could take a step. Justin, Helen, and Adrian sprinted down the cafeteria and out along the corridor once more. Behind them, they heard Mr. Wilson groan faintly, then nothing. They pounded on classroom doors, but they were all closed and empty. A low growl came from the gym at the end of the hall. A smell of burning rubber clung to the air. "We shouldn't be here," Adrian gulped. They entered a storage closet and shut the door behind them. Helen leaned against the chill wall, gasping. "What was that?" she breathed. Justin pressed his ear against the door. Far away, a muted scratch, scratching across the ground. "We are not alone," he breathed. They crouched, light from the hallway pouring in through the narrow gap at floor level. Chapter 4. Only the Brave. They dashed into the hallway. Heads bent, they sprinted toward the main staircase. But something had grabbed Adrian's backpack and yanked him backward. He screamed, and Justin and Helen hauled him free. There was merely the sight of something dark and fast. It might have been a person or anything. Adrian's arm was scraped and bleeding. "Move, move," Justin shouted. The stairway lights were out, and the metal steps glistened with water. They lost their footing and slid down the stairs to the ground floor. At the ground floor, the big doors opened, but lighted headlights of parked cars blocked the way out. Two guards in uniform were standing outside in confusion. One held a flashlight. Both were trying to call out someone on their radios. Justin noticed in relief that someone was rushing to help. But as Justin ran to the guards, a horrid scream echoed through the building. The two guards turned around and screamed with fright. Justin looked in and saw a giant, dark entity tackling one of the guards. Helen pulled Adrian back into cover. The guard was thrown to the ground by a monstrous. Chapter 5. Safe at last. Outside, the sun was coming up. Paramedics rushed to their rescue. Adrian sat on the curb, blanket-wrapped, holding his injured arm. Helen was sitting next to him, crying quietly. Justin stood watch over them as a police officer questioned him. "It's all good now," Justin comforted Helen. "They've got it under control." The officer nodded and punched Justin in the back. Under the early morning sun, the three friends held each other tight. Behind them was a building packed with officers. Only when they could finally stop trembling, Helen released a nervous giggle. "We made it through a black day in school," she said to them. Justin weakly smiled. "Yeah," he agreed. "We have our lives, and we're alive together. That matters." Adrian could muster a smile. "Also, we have an awesome tale to tell," he joked. They all laughed, relieved. As police questioned other students and paramedics checked out Adrian's arm, Justin, Helen, and Adrian sat on the curb and looked out at the sunrise. The nightmare was over. They had conquered the unknown together as a group, and they had survived. The day had started black and frightening, but with friendship and bravery, they had made it to safety when the darkness ceased. Written by Rehanna Rizzoli.